can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. Right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
All right. Welcome, everybody. John Corcoran here. I am the host of the Smart Business Revolution podcast. This is a live episode, going to be streaming it live on LinkedIn, and we're also going to put the recording up on Smart Business Revolution and also on Inspired Insider. Dr. Wise, good morning.
Thanks for having me. This will be on Inspired Insider.
All right. And so, I feel so privileged because every week I get on my show, twice a week, I actually get to talk to really smart CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs. I had the co-founder of Netflix on a while back, YPO, EO, Activation, Blizzard, Lending Tree, so many great founders and CEOs that I've talked to. Go check out the backlog, the back catalog, because there's some great episodes in there. And today is no exception. I also am the co-founder of Rise 25, where we help connect B2B business owners to their ideal prospects. And today's guest is Shaun Buck. He's the CEO and founder of the Newsletter Pro. He's been a friend for quite some time. We are a customer of his, and we're going to be talking about the best way to grow top-line revenue and maximize sales. So we're going to be talking about nurture campaigns, how to nurture prospects, so leads into sales, how to nurture clients that leads to greater retention, leads to upsells and referrals, all important issues. So be sure to pay attention because we're going to dive into that. And he knows a lot about this topic. Before we get to that, of course, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B business owners to get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships using our own special magic, which is done for you podcasts and content marketing. And if you're listening to this and you've ever been curious about starting a podcast and getting to talk to smart people every week, shoot us an email, support at rise25media.com, or go to rise25media.com. We'll be happy to tell you about how it works. All right. So Shaun, so excited to have you back here again. We've interviewed you before, but this is a unique period in time right now. We're recording this in May of 2021. We're a year into this global pandemic that's just been really upended so much of commerce and businesses. Mm-hmm. And you're in a unique position where you really have your finger on the pulse. You got so many different customers and you've seen how they've been affected by this pandemic. So what sorts of changes have you seen taking place over the last year?
Well, it's interesting. I think when this hit, because it was all so fresh, no one had seen it in 100 years, right? No one knew what to do at first from a business standpoint, and almost it felt like businesses just kind of went in their own direction, right? Like that was whatever it was just they're like, hey, we're gonna just scatter, and everyone just tried to figure it out. And actually, an interesting thing happened was that when it didn't end very quickly, a lot of gurus saw a huge increase in business. They saw an immediate fall off, and then a huge increase in business as people looked for answers. What should they do? How do they solve this problem? How do they stay? How do they grow? How do they, survive? Depending on what part of the pandemic we were talking about, and what's next, right? And so, as you said, now here we are a year later, and the funny thing is that a lot has happened. A lot is coming up. It's going to be a real interesting year, next 12 months, but a lot's happened, and people went in very different directions still. I think it depends on the industry. Look, there were some industries that were winners.
Shaun, I want you to kind of elaborate on that. And I'm wondering, what type of clients do you serve, and then talk a little bit, because I'm sure every industry is affected a little bit differently. Sure. So the types of clients you serve, and then what you saw happen with each of them.
Well, the types of clients we serve, a lot of them are professional services, doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, that kind of thing, right? We also service a number of kind of small businesses that are either service-based or have some level of repeat business or really high ticket. Those are our main industries. Of course, we have outliers like everybody else. But what we saw initially was just a panic from everybody, and actually most people made the one of the worst decisions they can make, which was a lot of people did, was that they paused or stopped all marketing. Now, when you're closed, I get it to some extent, right?
Makes sense then.
Makes a little sense then, right? Although I could make an argument for making a small adjustment and making sure you're still communicating at least on some level. But then we saw something else really interesting happen. A few people came out to be winners. So let's talk about dentists as an example. Dentists, they closed, which hurt. But then when they opened, they basically had a couple months worth of a backlog of patients, right? That they now normally would have done over those last 2 or 3 months. And now they had to try to fill them all in, get all caught up, get all the patients who were already scheduled for June or July or whenever they opened back up, right? And they were like going crazy with business. And so you know what a lot of them did? They didn't do any marketing. Why? Because they were as busy as they could be, right? We saw
it would continue forever.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's what we saw was this fear and panic. Stop, don't do a whole lot, put on hold. Then we saw some businesses open back up and just be inundated with business, and others open up and just struggle. Your bars, your nightclubs, not our customers, but I know some people who own a few of those, and and just struggle. Restaurants. Some did, some didn't. So what's going on is that the initial reaction was fear and stop everything. Okay. Then it was open back up. But if we don't have a lot of business, don't start right back up on marketing because we don't have any business, right? And if we are flooded with business, don't do marketing because we're flooded with business, right? And now where we're at, if that's like in the beginning into fall, that was what we were seeing. Like for our own personal business, not a lot of new clients coming on for the first 4 or 5 months.
Shaun, I have a quick question on that for 1 second. Because we know that obviously you want to dig the well before you need it type of situation. And how do you advise people when they're calling to go against their instinct? Because really what we're saying is you're going against your instinct. Things are shutting down. You shouldn't stop. Things are great. You shouldn't stop. How do you convey to them they should go against their instinct?
Well, it's not go against your instinct. Okay. Right. So even if your gut's telling you, right, just because your gut is telling you to go one way, we don't make decisions solely based off what our gut's telling us. We look at the facts. We look at the history. We look at how business works. Look, business isn't that complicated if you're willing to review what's already worked, what hasn't worked, and put some systems and processes in place and some effort. It's not that, it really isn't that difficult. But if you're going to just listen to your gut, you'll always be small. Like you're gonna struggle because you're gonna make the wrong decision because our guts are never 100% right. That fear, fight or flight type of an idea. And so how do we convince them? Some of it, everyone's a little different. Some of it's data driven, right? We're going to give them the data. Some of it's saying, hey, no, look, think about it. This is the point. When you think about some of the biggest companies right now, currently started in the Great Depression back in the 1930s, right? And they started there and they grew. My company started during the Great Recession, right? We had tremendous growth, right, during the Great Recession. So what was it? It wasn't because we were holding back. It's because when it's kind of like what Warren Buffett says, when everyone else is being greedy, you should be fearful. So when everyone else is saying, we don't need to market, we don't need to do any of this stuff, we don't need to have a podcast, we don't need to have a newsletter, we don't need to communicate, we're so busy. That's when you should be like, holy crap, I better be doing marketing. That's when you can get great prices on that stuff. Even, some places negotiate, right? That's where maybe you can buy ads at a discount. Facebook was at a discount there for a little bit, right? Right. And then when people, when people are being fearful, that's when you're in buying. So, right, they're being greedy, you're fearful, right? When they're being fearful, you're out there buying because that's where the opportunities are. And so that's what I would tell you. Like, that's how it works in the stock market. That's how it works in business as well too. When I see my competitors going right and they're all doing it, I'm like, well, that probably sucks because most of them aren't that smart. So let me go over here and look and see what's over here and probably go do that because I bet that makes more sense. And so I think when you kind of show them the examples, both in their industry, out of their industry, in other, in the stock market, things like that, you're like, look, this is what the smartest people on the planet tell you to go do. So go do it, right? And so that's, not saying it always works. That fear.
Talk about, and I know you're a big proponent of retention, keeping clients happy once you've retained them. Let's talk a little bit about that, particularly in the context of the importance of retention in this economy that we're in.
Yeah. Well, look, right now it's probably, I'd say, one of the most important times. Some of the most important things you could be doing, regardless of your business right now, is first and foremost, take care of the existing customers, right? Take care of them, make sure they're great communication, provide value. Of course, make offers where appropriate, but provide value plus offers. The reason being is that these are the guys who will keep you in business if stuff goes bad again, if it gets hard again. We're going to rely on our existing customers, right? And we're going to go do marketing, get new ones. But like we were doing marketing during the pandemic, but new ones were hard to come by. We got some. It was difficult to get though, right? Now we're getting some dividends from those leads we generated back then, and we're seeing an increase in sales, but it took a little bit, right? And so what I'm telling you is go after them, treat them well. They're the ones who pay your bills, right? These are the people who make your money, who keep you open. So take care of them. Put your systems and processes in place to maximize what you've already got. Now that means you've already got a lead. They didn't buy today. How do we maximize that lead, right? How do we educate them, entertain them? How do we provide them with enough information to maximize that lead? And so, maybe if we get 100 leads and convert 5 normally, if we sit there and work on maximizing those leads and have that efficient system, maybe over the next 12 months, we convert another 5 of them, right? Well, that's a really good investment, right? If we then take our existing customers and we make sure they're happy and we decrease the churn, the number of cancellations that we get, right? And then maybe we sell them some more, or we get them to buy a new product or service, or whatever it is, right? Okay, that is maximizing what we've already got. And it is a lot cheaper to do than to go out and get brand new, right? It's easier, it's cheaper, more profitable. And so, yeah.
Since Shaun, you are an expert at content, you've been doing this for a long time, and you mentioned the education and the entertaining pieces. Both are equally, maybe and arguably more important to entertain, or they're not going to listen at all. But what are some ways that you have found to engage people with the newsletter from the entertainment side in the different industries? What has worked well for the entertainment?
Look, I think entertainment can be a lot of things, but whether it's a newsletter or a podcast, right? The personality, right? So you guys, I know for a fact, you guys have people who love your guys' stuff, like the stuff you guys put out and publish, right? Your podcast, your newsletter, stuff like that. They're fans. Okay. That is entertainment on some level, right? The entertainment can be, it could just be people like personal interests. They like to know what's going on in everyone else's life, right? So it could be various personal interest stuff. I like to think about when you think about the old, Sunday newspaper, right? You would think about the newspaper. You had the comics and you had crossword puzzles, right? There were people who got the newspaper for years, but that was the only reason they got it, was for those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can put things like that in some of your printed media, if appropriate, like in a newsletter, that would be appropriate, right? To have some funny memes at the end, of your newsletter, something like that, right?
Yeah, I love how you do that, by the way. In your
thanks. Yeah, and we have people who, you get them and you put it at the end on purpose, by the way, right? Because then they have to kind of skim the rest of the content and they go there for the memes. And they're like, oh, that's a cool, interesting article. I'm going to go read that one too. Right. So, so you kind of,
by the way, so how do you go to a dentist and say, here's what you need? You need a newsletter that has a memes at the back. I'm sure you've got dentists or lawyers, law firms or something like that and say, no, we're too professional. Our clients, they don't want to see that. Why do you put that in there?
Yeah, I'm like, look, we get that sometimes, and I'm like, look, man, I don't know who you believe your clients are, but I think we should, we got to have a talk about that, because I'm pretty sure that as a dentist, your perfect client's like a 40-year-old mom of 3 who's married, whose family makes $100,000 a year or more, right? Like, what do you think, like, what do you think those people are reading and watching? Like, I mean, like most women I know who are like in that category, I mean, they like reality TV, they like, they like dramas, they like the crime, they like those crime podcasts and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
It goes back to reflecting the client avatar and kind of their interests.
Well, and it's like, look, dude, no one's like, you know what? Hot damn, I hope I get an article about Invisalign today. Man, I hope there's a podcast on Invisalign. No,
Right.
not one soul on planet Earth, except maybe the guy who owns Invisalign, wants to see that. So why would you put that content out? You need their attention. And when there's so many things that can grab their attention, damn, you better get it fast. And that means you better be entertaining, right? You better be entertaining, over anything else.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I would read an article on gingivitis. No.
What a few.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
So, you have this great, well-honed system, Shaun, through your company, honed over many years, where, you've got your book on the front end, people get a package in the mail. I encourage anyone, by the way, to go sign up, thenewsletterpro.com. You can get a copy of your book. What's the name of it?
Yeah, The Ultimate Guide to Newsletter Marketing. Yeah,
it's fascinating just to get it in the mail with the package that you get, and then you get the ongoing newsletter. But for those who are a business owner who don't have that perfectly set up yet, where do you recommend they get started? How do you get started with this kind of nurturement?
I mean, a lot of times what it is, you've got to find someone or a small group of people, right, that you're going to follow. So you're going to decide like, hey, listen, I really like John and Jeremy stuff. I really like Shaun stuff. And I like, Kim stuff or whatever. Right. And then you're going to follow those people because they are teaching what it is, whether it's free or paid. There's a variety of, you guys have free podcasts, I have free newsletters, things like that. Right. But you're going to follow those people to learn that stuff. Or you're going to go buy books or courses. Like, you've got to go study and learn it, or that's one way. And most people don't have time to do that. That is one of the problems. Or you're going to have to find the experts in the field, right? If you want to do a podcast, like, seriously, is your time in your business, is like it better spent trying to figure out how to do a podcast, or is it better spent hiring you guys so that they have to spend this much time and it actually gets done? So that's the key, right? Like, our clients spend less than 30 minutes a month to have their newsletter on average. Maybe it's maybe an hour for some of them, maybe 15 minutes for others, right? But on average, they're spending around 30 minutes a month and they get it done. That's the important part. And so, look, you can buy, time with money. You can buy speed with money, right? You can do all these things to help improve your business. But sometimes we just get we either get greedy, which is that's the ultimate thing that kills a lot of businesses and ruins people, right? Greed, right? So we get greedy. We're like, oh man, I don't want to spend this extra X dollar because I can do it for 10% less. And you're like, well, first of all, you probably can't do it as well. Even if you do it for 30% less, you're going to make so many mistakes. You're probably not going to get it done, which means you're actually just going to throw that money away. That's just garbage money. Right.
Yeah.
So hire the expert.
You mean the time when I tried to fix something with a handyman and then I broke it and then I broke it and then ended up paying? No, I would never do that. My wife knows if there's a changing of a light bulb, I'm like, hire someone.
Yeah,
I don't even want to do that. But
like, the handyman comes twice a month, honey. Like, I put it on the list.
No, you end up spending more time and money in the end when it comes back around.
Well, and you waste it. Like, that's the problem. Like, it's not even that you just spent it, it's that it's wasted because you don't get any results because you don't know what you're doing. You're not an expert. Like, I could probably grab that little scraper and clean my teeth, right? But
it goes into, it's sometimes a tough habit to break. And John, I read Who Not How, right? Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan, which is exactly talking about this, Shaun, which is like, don't think of how you're going to just hire the who, right? To get it done for you.
Yeah. Well, Dan Sullivan told me one thing once. Like, I know Dan and we were talking one time, and I'm sure he said this before, but he said, he's like, he's asking me about my workload, and at that time, many years ago, like it was really, really high in that particular moment. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm working way more hours than I want to at the moment. And he's like, why don't you hire someone? Why don't you like hire a CEO and step out of what you're doing? And I'm like, I don't know, it probably cost me, I don't know, $200,000 to hire that person, right? And he's like, so? And I'm like, dude, that's a lot of money. And he's like, you make over, you make over 7 figures a year profit, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, so realistically, you could do nothing. Even if you're just making $1 million, you could spend 200,000 and then do whatever you want with your time. You own your time again, or you can go kill yourself at 4,000 hours or 3,000 hours a year and make an extra $200,000. It's like, that sounds like a very foolish decision. And I was like, oh, you're right. And then I became CEO. So,
yeah. Hey, Shaun, how did the pandemic affect you? Like, right after it happened, what kind of decisions did you make in your business in the months that followed?
Yeah, well, initially it was really, really scary. We had for 25 days from when the pandemic hit, because we have our clients all over the country, a few in other countries, but mainly in the US. And for 25 days, we had an average of $120,000 a year worth of revenue per day go on hold or cancel.
Wow.
Immediately. And some of those guys
each day, an average each day.
Yeah, 120,000 per day for 25 days.
Wow.
Yeah. I was losing some sleep.
Jeez.
We were we would still made it even if none of those customers came back. Like, we could have survived that.
And what were you doing? Were you calling up these customers, or your team calling up these customers and saying
they were us, and then we were trying to get on the phone to save or to like, if they were closed, like we were like, all right, like we'll put you on hold.
Like, some were dentists,
do, right?
Yeah, or they were closed, yeah,
or whatever their business was. Like, we were like, okay, yeah. I mean, we were just, we weren't being jerks about it. I know some places were jerks about it, but like, we're put on hold, and then we had some just went out of business, right? We had some, honestly, we had some who were jerks who were on hold under contract, and then, when it was time to come back, they basically gave us the middle finger, right? But the vast majority of them all came back. And so we ultimately
did you recover? You recovered back from that now? Or?
Yeah, we recovered back. We didn't recover by the end. We recovered by the end of the year, but now here, now we are forward, right? We've recovered back from that. We're growing. We're actually, we're having a good May. We had an okay April. April's hard for us. Like, everyone's, paying taxes and stuff like that. Like, I just find that we just, April and July / early August as an agency, those are months that, like, just, we don't do as well. We actually market harder, in those months. But yeah, we didn't used to. Like, in July, I used to just let it happen. And I was just like, forget it. Like, just do whatever we're doing. Don't, nothing special, let it go. And I mean, we would close a third of what we would normally do in a July. And then we started marketing like hard. Like, I think we increased the budget like 50% from what we were spending in a normal month. And then we were still down, but we were actually only down about usually about 10-12% over a normal month. So we had to spend a lot more to get it, but we didn't go down as far, and the numbers worked. So
got it. Yeah, it makes sense. And you didn't have people. The fear or the problem. There wasn't a problem with people being on vacation and completely missing your marketing messages entirely during July or August.
Well, no, that's part of the reason that it's so hard. No one's paying attention, right? Which is why we're like, okay, we got to market more. So we try to be smart about, and then what we do, like what we'll do is we'll put out promotions, right? And we'll do our best to find one that we think is going to hit. And then, maybe if we would normally send, 5 emails and 2 direct mail pieces, right? we might send 10 emails and over the course of a longer period of time, and 7 direct mail pieces, who knows, right? We'll just increase it, or we'll make more phone calls, or whatever happens, whatever it happens to be for that period.
You mentioned something before, Shaun, about I tried to kick Jen out, but he came back. No, I'm just kidding. But
always trying to kick him out. Man.
Some people that you follow the people you respect, that you like, that you learn from. And I'm wondering some of the people you follow and what you've learned from them. You mentioned Kim Walsh Phillips, something that you've learned from her that you've taken to your business, and then anyone else that you follow and respect and what you learn from them.
Sure. Look, Kim, I love. She's amazing. I mean, just like the social media tips that I get from Kim are great. I like those, like when we're just talking, or some of her content, right? But like some of this behind the scenes stuff, I get to see like how she does webinars and stage presentations and stuff. Like, it's just, she's really, really, really good, right? And it's really interesting to watch her sell, because you just don't even know you're not even realize that she's selling anything. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm buying that. So like, she's amazing at it. Another mutual friend of all of ours is Dave D. I mean, there is a guy, who does webinars, selling from webinars or selling from the stage. Like, I don't know if there's anyone better that I know of. Right. So we talked about them. And another guy, who's also a mutual friend of all of ours, Ollie Bilson. Ollie's amazing, right? Out of the UK.
Great speaker too.
Yep. Great speaker, knows his stuff, as well as anybody. And, I mean, and if you want to like build like a following, basically, right? Like a herd or a community that is, to buy info products from you, like there's no one better to help you do that than Ollie. So.
Yeah, that's great. Shaun, wrapping things up, where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you?
So probably the best place to go, just go to newsletterpro.com. We've got tons of free stuff on there. I mean, we've got 10 years worth of content literally up there. You can get one of the books sent to you, depending on the type of business you are, either physically sent to you or digitally sent to you, and no charge, even if we physically send it to you. Or you can contact us, call us, whatever it is. But that would probably be the best place to jump in and say hi and kind of get a copy of our newsletter, get into the universe.
Excellent, Shaun. Well, it's been a pleasure working with you and your team. Your team did such a great job, and we appreciate you coming on today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Shaun.
Thanks, guys.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like $100 grand.